Great. Greg, I would like to ask you, what are some of the possible risks in terms of IMO regulations beyond 2020? Because it's okay, it's enough to say 2020, we're in 2020, and is power limits an alternative?
Yeah, I think some of the risks is that the IMO regulations are subject to interpretation. And I think just a good case of that is the scrubbers. So you can have the scrubber, you solve one problem by clearing up the emissions, but then you're pumping the emissions into the ocean. And it doesn't really solve the original problem, but that loophole was left open, if you like to call it a loophole, and fair enough, it's been utilised. And there's a lot of these things when I look at IMO regulations that you can see there's going to be possibly unintended consequences or ways to navigate around it. One of them is carbon neutral. You can make a commitment to being carbon neutral, which means you actually don't reduce your carbon emissions at all. You just plant a lot of trees. So the risk then is that these, ambiguities will be picked up by people outside shipping. And one of the things that I would stress to shipping is that a lot of the regulations that are coming towards shipping will come from outside shipping. The Paris Agreement is a good example. And if these loopholes or ambiguities are spotted, then you're likely to get a lot more severe regulation coming from outside. And it's totally unpredictable. What would be spotted in 10 years' time, none of us can say. They could renew the Paris Agreement, and that could come in with new regulations onto shipping, and how you plan for it, is almost impossible. So I think that's the big risk, is that there's possibly regulations out there that we just can't see at the moment. But one thing I can say to you is that I also go to non-shipping events, and I don't think it's fair, but in a lot of sectors outside shipping, shipping is the target at the moment. It's seen as villain number one, and there are people just waiting to stamp down more regulations, and some of them aren't pretty.
Yes, but it's polluting the environment the less, and the reason that has to pay more is because it's controlling 90% of the worldwide trade. So this is why I believe, and this is why I corrected the question, is slow steaming an alternative? No, it's the power limits. Better and not the slow steaming as they are mentioning it, maybe?
I agree with the point earlier that about the power limits. I think power limits and energy efficiency is a better alternative to slow steaming. But as an engineer and a scientist, what worries me the most is that the regulations may not be based on science and engineering. They may just be based on lobbying or powerful groups outside of shipping. And that's what worries me the most.